أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم به نستعين الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وفرج عنا بهم يا كريم. Alhamdulillah, we've been blessed to gather a third week and discuss and continue to talk about family development. You see, the goal stays the same and the journey stays the same. The goal is to make us recognize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not left us to fend for ourselves, and the journey remains the same. The journey itself is towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We recognize that there's a unique relationship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to all of humanity. In fact, humanity's very survival depends on the maintenance of this very unique item. This item is called the family unit. If this unique item is not maintained, if the family unit is not maintained, the very survival of humanity gets a question mark placed beside it. Okay. What that means is that this particular unit is essential, it's innate, it's important to humanity itself. If it's important to humanity itself, both in the sustenance of human cycles and so on and so forth, it's also innately important to their development too. This portion you see because you recognize that from the beginning of the guides, Hazrat Adam himself, till the end of the guides, the 12th Imam himself, right? The importance on all of the guides with regards to the marital relationships and the establishment of family units was immense. To the point where the Ahl Bayt said, where the Holy Prophet said, a person who does not participate in the formation of a family, who does not do aqd, who does not get married, is not from me. This is my sunnah. He attributes it to himself. Okay. The sunnah of the Prophet is pointed towards the only direction every aspect of the Prophet points towards, which is none but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we see that in takween, in the existential reality and the creation of humanity itself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places the family unit as something that's inseparable to humanity. To cease and destroy the family unit in its entirety is to cease and destroy humanity in its entirety. Okay, it's an innate aspect of human survival. Allah takes that very innate aspect and makes that the mechanism of launching humans towards Himself. What that means is that if the family unit is a place, a launching pad, if you will, a takeoff pad, if you will, both for the physical continuation of humans, physical development and continuity of humans, and then the metaphysical upliftment as well, guess what? It's going to have problems. That whole launching pad in of itself is designed in a way to grow you. What that means is whether you like it or not, growth is going to happen through it because it's designed that way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala isn't a failure now with the design. He's an excellent designer. Right? To the point where His design is the divine design. There is no deficiency in it whatsoever. So the family unit, if it's designed to grow and develop you and me, right? And what aspect of me and you is supposed to grow? Well, whatever aspect it grows, whatever traits it's meant to increase us in, whatever qualities it's supposed to purify for us, whatever tawajjuh and focus it's supposed to develop and give to us, all of it, the entirety of it, right, is going to be us moving from an A to a B, a previous state to the state where the family unit is supposed to take us. And the previous state is obviously not going to be a state that we're happy with. That means it's going to have some deficiencies. A movement from deficiencies towards growth requires admittance of deficiencies. So, first and foremost, everybody is very easily willing to admit that family units have problems. Nobody wants to take that thing and say, wait, maybe the problem starts with some aspect to do with me. But the reality is every family unit out there, okay, it's the deficiencies of those individuals in those family units that causes the problems in those family units. And Allah hasn't given those problems without measure. It's not the case that He's like, okay, this particular family unit, we're going to put a little bit of problems. Oops, now the while fall and all the problems. No. The risk is given in a very appropriate and accurate measure. Even the time in which a problem occurs, the other aspects and things that the problem occurs around, right? Linked problems or linked problems with other things and so on and so forth. It's all in an appropriate and accurate measure for each individual that's kind of becoming an associate of that problem. Each individual linking and impacted by that particular problem. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's divine justice ensures that for you and I. That's very relieving. That means that no problem in my family unit is something that is meant to destroy me. And every single problem in the family unit is meant to develop and grow me. Some aspect of that problem is stemming from my deficiencies. Other aspects are stemming from this person's deficiency or that person's deficiency. But at the end of the day, our deficiencies are also Allah's creatures and He's using them to grow each other. Okay, that's a very different framework from what a non-owned I, a non-divinely oriented individual, right, kind of sees. A non-divinely oriented individual, for them it's very easy to see the problems. It's very hard for them to see their role in the problems. It's very easy for them to spot where others are going awry and creating disturbances and problems for them, emotions of negative nature for them. It's very hard for them to recognize where they're adding to the flame. Even in recognition of where they're adding to the flame, it ends up becoming a recognition which is as I like to call it, a but addition. What that means is this: I did this and this, I was bad, but so and so did X, Y, and Z. They're justified deficiencies. The non-divine I, the non-owned I, the Pharaonic I, let's take the masks off. The Pharaonic I, this particular individual comes with justification for deficiencies. The owned I comes with acceptance of deficiencies. This is critical, this is important. Okay. Having talked about this, we are talking about now common dialogues that take place in a family unit, which center around the idea of name the bad guy. Okay, whether it be the father, daughter, father, son, son, father, son, daughter. Sorry, I'll be siblings. Husband, wife, wife, husband, whichever direction of the relationship you're looking at in the family unit, negativity often gets communicated, and that particular communication sometimes takes the shape of let's blame the bad guy. Okay. What occurs there is this: each individual tries to pin the problem on anybody other than them. And if the problem is at some level prevented that it doesn't come to them, they've succeeded. Shaitan plays a very important role here, where he wants to come and make sure that nobody is after identifying a cycle at play that needs to get broken, and everybody is after attributing the situation to an individual, a person. That's very detrimental to the development of the family. In the case where there is a cycle that's at play, an individual, even if they're making a deficiency, how great that deficiency is or how less that deficiency is directly proportionate to the interactions of those others around them. Okay. We often talk and hear about the story of Hazrat Nuh and how he, being a pristine father, but his son was somebody who had lots of difficulties and deficiencies. This sliver and this portion of the stories and aspect of that reality is often missed. You see, it was The caliber of Hazrat Nuh, right, which held back how far down and how bad that son was going to go. By being the best dad possible towards that particular son, Hazrat Nuh was consistently and continuously decreasing the speed at which the son wants to go down. And then at every level that that particular son was disobeying such a great assistance, evidently he fell faster. In the rejection of the efforts of those around us, we're setting ourselves up for a great decline, whoever that other individual may be. It could be that someone's toddlers come to them and say, Baba, Ma, we want to play with you. Put your phones down. In the rejection of that scenario, parents coming in and saying, not right now, we're busy. In the rejection of the efforts of any individual in the family unit to establish and maintain the family unit, that's a slippery slope. You're finding yourself in the position of Hazrat Nuh's, where the very rejection ends up making you fall further and faster. So when it comes times to looking and assessing at the actions and interactions of us and our partners, us and our spouses, it's imperative, it's really important that we see that what are the actions that the other person is doing to help the situation. Not what I think should help the situation. I'm trying to now see if they're following that particular template or not. Objectively speaking, they wish to fix the situation, not break or destroy it. Fitratan, they've been designed for that. What are they doing to allow for that particular development or that constructive nature to come? Constructive. Sometimes it might be in the shape of an individual avoiding an argument. They become quiet because they feel that becoming quiet is better than feeding and fueling the fire. Other times, it could be that an individual is expressing their frustration because they feel if they don't express it internally, they'll become numb towards the relationship. They'll stop caring. They can't afford that. They care for the relationship significantly, and they feel that they are obligated. They must now express. You see that? In the recognition of the attempts is where true growth is hidden. It's in the understanding of the person pursuing, okay? That the one who's avoiding is not avoiding for the sake of a destructive measure, rather they're avoiding for the sake of a constructive end. In the same way, the pursuit of a pursuer in the eyes of the avoider is to be seen now as a pursuit for development. Why would they chase something they don't like? Why would you avoid a confrontation if you truly didn't value that individual? Because a confrontation hurts. Because that need is a important thing that pursuer is pursuing for it. The avoider is avoiding that confrontation because they both value the relationship innately. They can't help but value the relationship. These dialogues are important to understand. These dialogues are something that aren't limited to what is currently in Western academia understood. The relationship between intellect and the faculties, emotions, is a unique relationship. It does not mean that the intellect comes to oppose the emotions. The intellect simply comes to direct and nurture the emotions so their needs are met in an appropriate measure. So the shahwa faculty, the faculty of desire, comes and says, I'm hungry, I want food. And the intellect comes and assists it in a way of attaining food which will not destroy it, which will grow it in the appropriate controlled measure. Islam does not preach the eradication of the faculties, it preaches the control and direction of the faculties. That's it. When it comes time to the family unit, this principle needs to be applied. A problem solving mechanism should not be the complete nullification of your emotions. You shouldn't be coming to your emotions. You don't exist, emotions. Because then your emotions are going to put their hand up and say, hello, I'm here. A good problem solving mechanism is supposed to use the emotions to identify the deficiencies, then use the intellect and words to express those in a way that helps you achieve and helps the other partner achieve and overcome those difficulties. Okay, achieve a solution to and overcome then that creature within yourself or that particular situation. Emotions are great tools as radars for figuring out where the craters are. They're horrible tools for actually going about and filling the craters. Okay. So, if a good analogy was to be thought of on the spot, I'd say that imagine you're going on the beach and you're looking for pellets of gold near these gold radar machine. That machine is very, and it goes toot, 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 and it goes toot, 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 toot. That means there's gold around. Masala, or metal detectors. So let's say a person is going around the beach. That machine is great at detecting the metal, but if that person takes that same machine and starts using it as a shovel, they're gonna break that machine. Right? It's not designed for that. Emotions are great detectors of deficiencies in yourself, in your family unit. They're horrible communicators of deficiencies. You should use emotions to detect the problem and use the intellect to communicate it. What that requires is for us to communicate the problem at a time where the emotions aren't riled up. One way to ensure the emotions aren't riled up is to understand what the emotions are saying in a wholesome way. If at any point your emotional understanding ends up portraying the scenario as something other than a cyclical identity, as something which is a me problem only or that guy's problem only, a black and white scenario where one individual is entirely at fault and nothing else, that's a good time to reassess and say, wait a second, is that truly the case? Or can I identify a cycle going on here? Have I added any petrol to this flame or no? This is extremely important to understand. Relationships in the family unit are substantiated and valid and held upright by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He makes them lawful. And us as managers of those relationships, our responsibility is to manage then the communications of those relationships. At some point, our emotions are given to us by Allah. We don't choose to get riled up. We don't choose to get frustrated. We get frustrated and get riled. Those are great signs, great radars given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show us exactly where the next developmental item is hidden. If an individual chooses this amazing radar as a shovel, it's that individual's fault. We have to be individuals who don't use this great sensor and great radar blessed to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the radar of emotions, and use it as the shovel of communication. Because if that happens, we might find that we're digging our own graves and the graves of that particular relationship if we use the emotions to communicate. We might find that at the end of the day, we might have a hand in the deterioration of a relationship. And that's not a small sin. Just because I'm the manager of this relationship doesn't make it any less sinful for me to destroy it. How great is a sin if you were to go and destroy your neighbor's marriage? Huge. Why is destroying your own marriage any less of a sin? Why? We conclude today's session with this question, that our responsibilities are given to us by the owner of the relationships. All relationships are directionally specific. It is our intellect which has to go and understand experiences, repetitions of those, and figure out modes of communication which assist the relationship, not to destroy it. Not for our partner's sake, for our very own sake. Because the sin of destroying a family unit is too great to bear. And the fact that we end up destroying our own doesn't make the sin any less. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts these durus from us. Today's dars is kept slightly shorter than normal, and future durus will be making an attempt to keep them within 30 minutes as well, inshallah. Thank you for your feedbacks. Please continue to give them to me. You can also leave them as comments to this video.